Good evening, and welcome to the City of Roswell Open Forum Mayor and City Council meeting for May 30th, 2023. I am Mayor Pro Tem Christine Hall, and I would like to acknowledge the council members present. Councilmember Sarah Beeson, Councilmember William Worthland, Councilmember Michael Palermo, and Councilmember Dr. Peter Vanstrom. Mayor Kurt Wilson and Councilmember Lee Hills have excused absences. At this time, I would like to call Pastor Sabin Strickland from Mount Pleasant Church to the front for the invocation moment of silence. Please stand.
To the citizens of our city and to our mayor and council, we'll have a moment of silence and then I will conclude with prayer. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time to come together with matters of our city. I'd like to pray and ask your blessings upon this mayor and council for the city of Roswell. Pray a special prayer for Mayor Kurt Wilson and Council Member Sarah Beeson, Council Member Christine Hall, and Council Member Lee Hills, and Council Member William Morthland, Council Member Mike Palermo, Council Member Peter Vastrom. Pray for their support staff, City Administrator Randy Knighton, City Attorney Michael Petty. Pray, God, that you would give them the spirit to be able to work together in unity. Pray you bless and endow them with wisdom, with insight, with knowledge, and with understanding as they worked together for the betterment of this great city of Roswell. But I ask that you would bless council meeting on tonight. As is open mic night, I pray that all will be done decent and in order. Pray that those present will be able to come and express their feelings and their insight about this, our city. Pray a very special prayer for the esteemed veteran of Roswell, United States Army Colonel Douglas J. Middleton, and all who have served in our United States military. Blessed tonight is my prayer. We thank you for the privilege and the honor to be able to come together as a city and to reason together. For you have said that things can be established when individuals come together and reason. So bless is my prayer. Keep is my request. It is in the name of your Son that we do pray and ask it all. Let everybody say amen. Thank you for the honor of praying tonight.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Strickland. At this time, please remain standing. I'd like to call United States Army Colonel Douglas J. Middleton to lead us in the pledge.
If you would please face our national colors and say along with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Colonel Middleton, I'm going to have you stay up there, and I would like to invite council to come down for the first agenda item under the mayor's report, which is a reading of the proclamation for the esteemed Veteran of Roswell Award to United States Army Colonel Douglas J. Middleton. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Colonel Douglas J. Middleton, esteemed veteran. Whereas in 1964, Douglas J. Middleton was drafted into the United States Army and after 14 months of training and service, graduated from Officer Candidate School and commissioned as a second lieutenant of Field Artillery. Subsequently, Doug completed the following training and education in his military career: Army Basic Training, Officer Candidate School, Field Artillery Officer Advanced Course, Jungle Warfare Training School, Comptroller Training School, Command and General Staff College, and the Army War College. And whereas in 1966, on his first tour of duty in Vietnam, Doug was wounded in combat by an enemy landmine, and on his second tour of duty in Vietnam, he commanded a field artillery howitzer battery in combat. Doug served a tour of duty in Germany where he commanded a Pershing 1A missile headquarters battery as a captain and a Pershing 1A firing battery of 9 nuclear-armed missiles as a major. Subsequently, Doug was assigned to the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., where he was the assistant executive to the Comptroller of the Army. He was again assigned to Germany and commanded the world's first Pershing II missile battalion of 36 nuclear-armed missiles as a lieutenant colonel, and his unit was awarded the Army Superior Unit Award for the period of his command. And whereas, upon graduation from the Army War College at Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania, Doug was promoted to colonel and reassigned back to Germany to become the 56th Field Artillery Command Chief of Staff. After completion of that tour of duty, he returned to the United States and was assigned to Fort Lewis, Washington, to take command of the 9th Infantry Division Artillery and later promoted to Division Chief of Staff. And whereas, upon the inactivation of the 9th Division, Doug was moved to Washington, D.C., where he became the commander of the United States Army Community and Family Support Center, responsible for morale, welfare, and recreation activities throughout the Army. Under his command, the Army acquired Shades of Green Armed Forces Recreation Center at Disney World and the expansion of the Halikawa Hotel in Honolulu, Hawaii. And in 1994, Colonel Douglas J. Middleton retired from service, and the United States Army honorably bestowed the following medals: Distinguished Service Medal, 3 Legion Merit Medals, 5 Bronze Star Medals, including 1 for Valor and Purple Heart, Department of Defense Meritorious Service Medal, 4 Army Meritorious Service Medals, 3 Army Commendation Medals, 2 Humanitarian Service Medals, Army Good Conduct Medal, General Army and Staff Identification Badge, and the Parachutist Badge. The German government awarded the German Air Force Missile Qualification Badge in gold, which is a highly decorated honor and seldom awarded to a United States soldier. Now, therefore, I, Christine Hall, Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member of the City of Roswell, do hereby name Colonel Douglas J. Middleton, an esteemed veteran of Roswell, and call upon all of our citizens to recognize his outstanding service to our country and our community, and that there is no higher calling than those who served in the armed forces. Would you please say a few words?
Thank you very much. First of all, that career would not have been possible without the support of my wife and my 2 kids, Julie and Dan, who are unfortunately not here tonight. But there is a backstory to all of this. And that is, I was a young kid out in Southern California, Long Beach, California. And at that time, the draft was before the lottery. And I was going to college, went to college, came out of high school, went to college at what we call Long Beach State, it's now the University of California in Long Beach. And I flunked out. 2 semesters flunked out. Okay, went to Long Beach City College, 2 semesters and flunked out. And because I just didn't study, I just wasn't my thing, I guess. Just having too much fun. And because of that, my draft status changed from 4A to 1A, and it was a matter of weeks. And March 23rd of 1964, they drafted me. Certainly nothing I had planned, but for whatever reason, I think the Army gave me the discipline and the structure. I had no intention of staying in the Army. It was a 2 years and out draftee thing. Found that loved it. Went to officer candidate school. The Army saw potential in me that I did not see in myself. They gave me the opportunity at their expense to go back and get my bachelor's degree. And when I was at Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, they also gave me the opportunity to stay an additional period of time and get my master's degree. And of course, ultimately, they sent me to the Army War College, which also, although I didn't get a degree from the Army War College, it's graduate work, and basically it was, international studies. So I got more education than I thought I would ever get. Fate was very kind to me. I loved every minute of it. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I am humbled by this honor. Really, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you to the City Council and Mayor of Roswell. Thank you.
And can we get a picture with your family?
I've got a few things I want to get out.
Do you usually have to hold this in the picture?
He'll hold it open.
Okay.
I'm a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and we have a local chapter. And it's a military tradition. We give out coins to people. So, thank you for being part of this. Thank you.
Surrounded by the women in black.
This wasn't planned.
Thank you so much.
The last item on the mayor's report is upcoming events and a past event that we just had yesterday. And I'm going to ask my colleagues, Councilmember Palermo, if he would give a brief recap of the wonderful Memorial Day ceremony.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hall, and great job yesterday. So for those of you that did not have the chance to make it, it's really an amazing tradition that we have here in the city of Roswell. And it's just a really great opportunity to get together as a community and honor our fallen soldiers. And for those of you that did miss it yesterday, you missed something unique for our Memorial Day celebration. Not just that that Mayor Pro Tem Hall did a fantastic job leading the introduction, but the weather. Normally it is so hot in there, and I'll tell you, actually saw in the shade a bunch of people shivering, but everybody was there celebrating and really, really understanding and there together as a community for what Memorial Day is all about. So if you were not there yesterday, please do just keep it in mind for future Memorial Days, that Roswell has absolutely the absolute just best Memorial Day celebration, very impactful and meaningful.
Thank you. And Councilmember Beeson, would you talk about the upcoming events, please?
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Coming up this Friday, June 2nd, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. at Riverside Park, we are showing Lyle Crocodile, which my children would deem as cinema, at the Reels on Wheels event. It's going to be Food Truck Friday as well. So the food trucks will start at the park at 5 o'clock for anybody to grab dinner, friends after work, snack for the family, and then you can watch the movie beginning at 7 o'clock in the evening on an LED screen, which gives it the ability to see it visible for all while the sun is setting. And it will be along the grassy knoll area. And then next up, next Friday, June 9th, from 7 to 9, on the grounds of City Hall, we will have Music on the Hill, featuring music from Guardians of the Jukebox, playing our favorite dance party hits from the 1980s. You can bring your blankets to City Hall, unpack your picnic, uncork a bottle, unwind, and listen to some of the best live music in Atlanta. The outdoor concert series at City Hall is back. This will be one of our first ones, June 10th, next Friday, and every second Friday for the month through September. You can find this and many more events at roswell365.com.
And I have to respectfully disagree with my colleague, Councilmember Beeson, and I have to agree with her children. I thought Lyle Crocodile looked stupid. I didn't want to watch it, but my kids really wanted to watch it. And I'll tell you, I laughed, I cried, I sang. It was actually a really good, thoughtful movie.
Palermo gives it 2 thumbs up.
Thank you both. I am now opening it up to public comment for open mic night. If you would like to speak, please make sure to fill out a comment card so that we have a record of all speakers at the meeting. Place the cards at the receptacle next to the podium. There is allotted a maximum of 5 minutes for each speaker. When you come forward, please state your name and where you live for the record. Thank you. So, who would like to be first? And Ms. Russell, if you would just state your name for the record.
Janet Russell, Roswell resident.
Thank
I don't know
you.
how to use this, so can somebody help me? Stop the clock until I know how to put this on. You know how to use this overhead? I don't. Thank you. Thanks, Richard. You know how to use it?
No.
Don't ask me. I have no idea.
Okay, I think you're.
Okay. Thank you. I'm here to talk about the closure of Canton Street to a promenade, and I wanted to give you a little history, and I know I only got 5 minutes, but we're talking 40 years, so I'll make it fast. This is a picture of Canton Street in the late 50s, early 60s at the south end. The dirt in front of you is what is now the heart of Roswell Park. Kindly note the overhead power lines, the unpaved road, and the on-street parking. There were no sidewalks. In the early 80s, there were approximately 13,000 adults who lived here, and we voted to spend $2.2 million of 80s money, which is $7 million in today's money. We buried the power lines. We also dug up the water lines. One of the water pipes we dug up from the Civil War that is wood. I wanted to show you this because some people seem to think that they own Canton Street, and they forgot that we do. The residents of Roswell. Along the way, we took down all the power lines, built the brick sidewalks, put in 11 crosswalks and a half a mile of road. At the time that we did that, there were beauty shops, flower shops, fabric stores, clock antique stores, one restaurant, and where the antiques market was a grocery store. I just decided that we need to talk about how much money has been spent by the city of Roswell taxpayers. But before we do that, I think this is the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. The date of that is May 4th, 1980. Let that sink in. They were already complaining about parking. They complained when the road was not fixed, then they complained during construction, then they complained that they were going to lose parking, and then they complained they had too many people. Now we're hearing that they complained that they weren't given enough notice about the possible closure for a promenade. Just so you know, the East Alley cost $1.97 million. We spent contemporary dollars to fix that road. The crosswalk to get you over there cost $225,000. The crosswalk on Norcross Street cost $28,000. We paid the Hagan Properties $217,306 to use his lot after hours for free parking for their merchants. We also paid the Roswell United Methodist Church $5,200 so that people could have parking. Remember, these are taxpayer dollars subsidizing businesses who are only complaining. I'm really tired of the complaining. I'm tired of the victim mentality and the entitlement attitude. We don't owe them anything. If anything, they owe us. Canton Street's a half a mile long from north to south. From south to Oxbow is also a half a mile, and I've never heard in 41 months one complaint about the impact of traffic patterns because of the closure of Oxbow Road. Nope, they're just worried about 18 days. We've been closed over 1,200 days on Oxbow Road. I did a little checking. There are 264 restaurants in Roswell. 24 of them are on Canton Street. 10% of the restaurants are getting 100% of the attention. Sorry, I'm really tired of it. In 2019, we did a Roswell Summit thing where we invited residents to come and talk about the city. There were 2,150 people who participated. 7,000 put those little stickers on Canton Street that we wanted it to be a promenade. The last thing is there's complaints. Well, we kind of like the idea, but we want to have a task force, and we need more committees, and we need more time. Well, when there was a sinkhole on Webb Street, did they ask for a task force and a committee, or did they just call EPW and transportation and say, fix it now? Because they wanted it now. This is the Instacart group. Wave a flag and we want a parking garage tomorrow because we don't want to wait for anything, not ever. Well, there's a whole bunch of us in town that are fed up with it. The farmers market came to the city in 2020 November and asked to move here because they got booted out of here by the previous administration. They've had Oxbow Road as a problem for 41 months. The city went to the merchants of Canton Street and they got 100% veto power. No committees, no task force, no public conversation. It was just, not just no, but hell no. I don't know why. Who gives them all that permission? If you think I'm upset, well, not really, because these are some of the these are things you can't make up that I heard in the last work sessions. We moved to Webb Street for peace and quiet. We moved to Webb Street for walkability, and when they make it a promenade, that will ruin it. Who will provide tables and chairs and staff if you let me put them in the street? And finally, when the sinkhole happened, a woman stood in this room and said, I was stuck for 20 minutes in traffic.
Thank you,
20
Janet.
minutes. I'd like to ask her, excuse me, thank you. She lived to tell us about it. I hope she writes a memoir and a survival manual so I can share it with the women of Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Who would like to come up next?
Well, if there's nobody else,
Would you please state your name for the record, please, Mr. Yao?
Oh, I was going to use Mickey Mouse tonight. Jason Yao, resident of Roswell. I just want to, it's unfortunate that Mayor Wilson isn't here tonight because what I have to say is, very directed at him. When he ran for office, he really didn't know anything about the issues facing the city of Roswell. And a lot of us advised him. And when he was first told about Oxbow, he thought, well, that's a big nothing. And by the end of the campaign, he was running ads on the national news networks about Oxbow. He likes to go around right now pounding his chest and saying that I fixed Oxbow in my first 65 days. You didn't fix it. You guys didn't fix it. You restarted the job. There was no material change in the design that could have saved money. There was no material change in the design that could have alleviated the traffic that it's going to be creating. There were no mitigating factors put in except maybe textured pavement, which total waste. Not only did you not fix it, not only was it just a restart, but the last group left a $1.5 million change order on the table. You guys increased it to nearly $3 million just to restart the job. I looked at the change order. It's all unit pricing. It's very opaque. It's not straightforward as to what are we getting for the extra $1.5 million. This project was originally budgeted at 5.9. We're now 3 times that at 18 million. I'm just shocked that the Transportation Commission was not put into effect before Oxbow was done, but that's because the mayor has this attitude that he knows everything because he won an election. And he has magically been imbued with knowledge and experience that he did not previously possess prior to the election because he won it. He came to our Transportation Commission meeting in December and basically said as much. He had the unmitigated gall to tell us at that meeting he now knew more about the Gateway project than any of us. I thought that's pretty remarkable for a man who can't read a set of engineering drawings, who I doubt has the discipline to sit down and go through the hundreds of pages of GDOT documents that people on the commission have waded through. His whole basis of knowledge for the Gateway is being briefed by the legacy staff of RDOT. He was told, not just by me, but by many people, don't drink the staff Kool-Aid. And the staff Kool-Aid is staff saying, we were here before you, we'll be here after you. We can help you while you're here, but you don't know anything. You've got to listen to us. And RDOT was, the legacy staff at RDOT were the last people you wanted to be listening to because their primary objective is to cover their behinds for all the all the garbage that they've committed. I mean, every big plan is a disaster in this city. Even the little things are a disaster. And the mayor listens to them. Our Transportation Commission was completely ignored. At the meeting, the neighborhood meeting a couple of weeks ago for Grimes Bridge, not a single recommendation was that we made was at all incorporated into the design. Instead, it was what they opened up with, which was a series of mini roundabouts at $1 million apiece. And the recommendations we made, we were told, oh, I'm sorry, there's not enough money for that. But there's the money for mini roundabouts that do nothing, that require unnecessary right-of-way acquisition from private property owners who are not happy to give it. It's, you know, he blew this thing up because he's got a big ego, but it's very fragile. And he doesn't want to be told by people who know more than him what to do. And he'd rather just be told by the legacy staff of RDOT the lies that they tell and sell us out to GDOT all over again like the mayor before him. And there's just 5 minutes just isn't enough to go into it, but that's all I got, so I'm out.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for your comments. Who would like to come up next? Come on up. If you would just please state your name for the record.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, my name is Lindsay Coates, and I am a Roswell resident, so thank you so much. Tough act to follow. I have a couple of questions for tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and ask them both before I ask for feedback, so that we can we can all talk freely. First, I am the vice president of Roswell Soccer Club, which is the largest youth sports program in the city. And we are also a big financial booster. So that is my interest. I'm not asking on behalf of the club, but I am asking as my vested interest in as part of that club. So good to see you here also, Mr. Leatherman. And I'd like to thank you, Councilman Morthlin, for your help and some strategic decisions that we were able to make with your help as part of that club. So thank you. At the last budget meeting a couple weeks ago, prior to approval, Councilman Palermo, at one point before approving to move on, you mentioned something specifically about the Woodstock fields and keeping them grass, and I just want to understand your intentions and thoughts behind those fields, as well as the Groveway fields. And then my other question runs adjacent to the closing of Canton Street, which was already mentioned tonight. And there have been renewed calls to revive the City Green project. That's by business owners and also by residents. And to my knowledge, we've got a study and plans for that green to be done. And it also accounts for moving brick by brick the Faces of War Memorial. But also it seems as though it could stay right in place and the green could be done with that not moving at all. So my question is, and the other pushback was also about tree canopy, which is a whole different subject considering that most of the trees there are pine and also, to my knowledge, were described by an arborist as not necessary. So there's a lot in there that could be taken for whatever. But my question for each of you on council tonight is, what are your thoughts on reviving this plan in conjunction with the closing of Canton Street or completing prior to closing Canton Street? Thank you.
Thank you. And the purpose of open mic night is for you to speak. It's not a dialogue
Okay.
back and forth. So if you want to continue to make some comments, what we'll do is Mr. Knighton and actually I defer to Councilman.
No, you're absolutely right. I'd say, of course, there's no responsibility of anyone up here to be responding. I'll tell you, I plan on giving my my input on what I heard, but I do want to make sure that all comments are made and just that any
Yeah,
questions
I would love answers. I have sent a couple emails in prior on different topics and not received a response from anyone except from Ms. Beeson. So what would be the best way to get a response from you guys?
Well, we have, as part of the open mic, we write down your questions, and City Administrator Knighton will respond to them.
Thank you so much. All right, that's all I have tonight.
And Councilmember Palermo, would you like to speak about the Woodstock?
Yeah, I'm actually going to speak for both. So just two things. Yeah, one was Woodstock Road, and I'd actually brought up 2 points for the fields. So all three of my kids play in Roswell rec soccer, and so my oldest is on Santos. The younger two are in the regular rec, and frankly, the Woodstock Road fields are deplorable, and so. Basically had 2 pieces. One was a concern that the bond item that we were voting on last week, if I remember correctly, did not show construction budget, it just showed planning budget. So that was one question I had. But the second one was wanting to make sure that there's a full discussion and a look at on how we improve it, because basically, actually, Lindsay brought up when speaking, brought up the example of Groveway, and so as something I've experienced talking with other parents and starting to travel to other clubs fields as well, is something that I certainly feel that the greatest family-friendly community does still have grass fields as well, and there's a lot of benefits around the aspects around the heat. There's a lot of benefits on, frankly, there's a lot of concerns around crumb rubber with the so if you go to the lower Groveway field, you see it's nothing but those little black balls, which is tire, which is rubber from tire, and of course all the little kids are playing with it, getting in their mouth, all those different stuff, and And so what I wanted to make sure was voting for that wasn't meaning that that Woodstock Road automatically turns into to turf, and instead we're looking at what is the best solution, because a big part of the challenges and issues with Woodstock Road is there's really poor drainage. So if you're familiar with it, it hasn't been properly built out. Whereas in, for example, Sweet Apple soccer fields, are available to play on so much more, so much better. And obviously, although frankly for the year 2023 could probably even have better drainage and things like that, at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that we were looking big picture at how do we solve the issue and make the best possible field, and not just the automatic having a solution, which is, well, we'll change it to turf because that's easier, although that creates other challenges as well, which is definitely the case when practicing on Lower Groveway. When it gets too hot, the kids need to go over to Upper Groveway for the grass. So that was my reasoning, that we need to accelerate the improvement, but want to make sure that we're not just automatically looking at, we should be adding crumb rubber to every field, and instead making sure we're having the right approach. So that's the first thing that I wanted to address. And then the second one regarding the city green is, I think actually the speaker brought up the fact that although there was a plan, the plan was something that I'm even hearing from the speaker is not something that was, or something that has some weaknesses or some challenges. So one aspect was addressed. The plan that's on the books was to move the war memorial. And so that is the plan. So if this city council were to decide that we wanted to spend, back in 2016, it was projected, I think, to be at least $5 million. But so I don't know what it would be in current day, and I can't remember the exact amount. But if that plan were to move forward, then first of all, that plan is to move the war memorial, and it is brick by brick, which not only is costly, but it was very questionable on the condition that it would remain in, and where should it move given the prominence that it currently has. And then another aspect was for it to cut down all the trees, to then replace the trees with shade structures. And so that was something that I think was really questionable as well. It sounds like, if I heard correctly, it sounded like there was an arborist questioning the need for the trees here. I'd say I certainly am a fan of trees. I prefer just the look that it gets, the environmental benefits, and not wanting to spend millions of dollars automatically to cut down trees. I think there are improvements that should be made. And in fact, actually, I had voted in favor of doing the portion of City Green just to get things started that would have better connected and created a better path and everything else, which would have been from the parking lot to Canton Street. That did not end up having majority support at the time. I'm really happy that this mayor and council is moving forward with improving the trails and opportunities there. But as for back here, I am personally a big proponent for looking for ways for us to improve it, create it to be more of a gathering spot, but to spend many millions of dollars, including cutting down all the trees to replace it with shade structures. I'd say the fact that we have a plan on the books doesn't make it necessarily the right plan and the best thing for our community. So those were just my responses I wanted to give, but obviously no one's required to give any type of response.
Open it up to any of my other colleagues if you'd like to comment. Councilmember Vanstrom.
Thank you, Lindsay, for coming up. That's very nice of you. We got a beautiful grass field right here. I think it's terrific, and I think it's great that there's a lot more discussion right now in the community, and we're very well aware that that discussion is reignited about City Green as proposed, or whether we take that project and start looking at some variations. I'm excited to look at that, and I'm really looking forward to working on that with the rest of the council and the mayor. But I do want you to know, and the fact that you brought that up, I think is so terrific, because there's a lot of discussion right now. And I'm sorry I missed your email, by the way, because a lot of people are asking about it again. So it's something we do need to discuss. So I appreciate it.
It wasn't specifically about the City Green. It was prior emails. So just so you know, you didn't miss that one.
Thank you. Councilmember Morthland.
Just to address the bond question very quickly, we did put together the funding to come up with different plans, whether it be turf or grass, and that's where that stands right now. But Whoever said it earlier, that there is not funding for construction at this time, that is correct. We're still in the planning phases between the two differences there.
We don't have funding for construction and a $107 million bond.
We have funding set aside, but we just don't know which direction we're going in, whether it be turf or grass, and that's where the plans are being drafted.
Understood.
Councilmember Beeson.
Appreciate the questions, as well as your input, suggestions on City Green and reviving it. I, like many council members, have heard many suggestions of the revival of the City Green project. There was nothing short of, I think, a dozen iterations of the designs for the City Green project. I don't know that we have one in particular that we would have in front of us right now. But there's a lot of great green spaces in cities around Roswell that get a lot of good traction. I think just driving by the city of Alphareta's green space over the weekend, it was packed. And I think that's the kind of communal space that we would enjoy. As for the amount of trees that it would include or where exactly the war memorial could be, I think these are all things that could be discussed. But I am supportive of open communal spaces for our community to be able to share times together and to have better connectivity with Camp Street as well. Thank you for your concerns.
Thank you all.
Thank you. You've got a couple more minutes
Thank you.
left.
No, all good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We'll, at the end. Is there anybody else that would like to comment? Any more Roswell residents? Then as a point of personal privilege, Ms. Russell.
Regarding the City Green, I was present for every single meeting. None of you were. And I was. The city spent $2 million on design ideas that the design company admitted were terrible, but they were contractually obligated to do what the DDA said to do. We had an engineering company come and tell us that they had moved other memorials, and every single one of them was damaged when it was moved. The city promised to maintain in perpetuity in its present location that war memorial. I checked, and perpetuity does not have an expiration date. I looked on the back of the memorial, and there is no sell-by date on it. I promised back then that if the city ever attempts to move that war memorial, I will make this city a national embarrassment. I promise, and unlike the city, I keep my promises. I tried to present to the City Council 7 years ago a plan that I designed with the help of an urban planner at my expense, and the then Mayor Jerry Wood not allow me to present it. I gave a printed copy to every DDA member and every council member. It was, without being ego-minded like some people are on this council, it was very, very, very good. It did not cut down any trees, but just so you know, they removed 100 trees in the middle of the night and would drag them out to a logging truck in the back of the parking lot, because you'd see them on Saturday mornings when the farmers market started. Most cities would kill for an urban forest, and that's all I heard yesterday at the Memorial Day celebration. That's what you hear when there's an art show, and everything else is out in the open, because you know what? We live in the South. No one has ever been heard to say, oh, honey, look, the shade moved. Let's get in the sun. We're going to cut down trees to put up shade sails? Come on, folks.
Thank you. If there's no other speakers to come forward, this portion, Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you. I just want to be clear that I think there is opportunity for improvement behind right here, but there was one single plan that ultimately came from staff that was presented, and there was the vote on it in 2016. And again, I don't feel that spending that many millions to move the war memorial, cut down all the trees and replace it with shade structures was the right solution. But again, I don't feel that means we shouldn't be working on how can we improve this area, how can we create just more community engagement and create a better situation for both our parking here as well as our downtown. So I do feel there's gray areas and there's in betweens. I don't think it has to be either fully against all of it or fully for all of it. And I certainly love to look for different ways that we can improve this property for Roswell residents.
Thank you. Any other comments, closing comments from council? On that note, the open mic portion of the meeting is now closed, and we're going to go to the city attorney's report. Mr. Petty, would you please read your item on your report, please?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I would recommend going into closure.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for closure? Councilmember Beeson? Second? Councilmember Morthland, all in favor? All in favor, 5, or do I vote? 4-0. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.